1933, James Hilton wrote some stories about his old schoolmaster, and they became an instant hit. It was very nostalgic altogether, and then almost instantly became a book. And 5 years later, it became a film. And this movie, it's called Goodbye, Mr. Chips, is actually one of those movies that is on BBC every single year. Usually Christmas, but sometimes Easter, whatever they can splice it in. Have an empty Sunday or an empty Saturday afternoon, you splice in Mr. Chips again. So I've seen this one like 7 times or something like that, because and I rewatched it recently. I do have to say I watched it when I was sick, so your perception of things is not quite the same as when you're not sick. So, but I think it's still as I remember. And the film is from 1939, and it tells the story of a fictional. It's a biopic of a fictional character. A schoolmaster who's come to a boys' school to teach in 1870 and basically lived and died there. He was a young man when he came, and he does find love, but it doesn't last because women get children, and sometimes it doesn't work out. So that's very sad. It's in the book. This is all the stuff is in the book. There's a lot about the boys' school. This movie was made in 1939, and that is being a very auspicious year for certain world events. As people who look at history now, you're not quite sure when people knew stuff, but it's very clear that in 39 or 38, when they were planning this movie, they were already aware that there was going to be a war. It was very clear. The World War II, which is not happened in 39 yet, I'm sure when it came out, probably, you make the movie, and you edit it, and it comes out sometime later. In those days, it came out pretty quickly, but it's still months in the making, if not a complete year. People saw it coming, and they realized we need something because they realized England was going to be a target, Britain was going to be a target. And basically this thing just drips with Britannia. I subtitled this movie as sweet propaganda. That's what it is. It tells you the pretty part of the story from the book. He lives in a pretty world with so many. He is a teacher in a boys' school, so lots and lots of boys. They filmed the boys' school part on location in Repton school. The Repton school is the boys' school. The children that are not the main actors. There's an actor child in it. Terry Kilburn plays Collie the younger, and then Collie his son when he is a boy, and then Collie his son when he is a boy. Because the schoolmaster is there for 63 years, so that's 3 generations of kids he saw there. That's the boy. That boy is a real actor, but almost everybody else are just the children from actual Repton school of 1939. Who did this as a school project, I suppose. So the location is correct. All the other locations, because it's 1939, people didn't go on location other than something like this. So there's a scene where he goes to Germany, or if I'd have to check if it's Germany or Austria, but to the mountains, and that's of course studio. It's all studio. They give you the hearts and flowers version of the story, of the type of story, because you imagine a life in a boys' school there's going to be for the teachers there's going to be political stuff, and for the students there's going to be bullying stuff, and they completely downplayed most of that. the one thing they did not downplay too much, or less than, than other things, is the school has a German teacher, and he's there for many years, and then in the 3 years of World War One, which is the war in this film, because this is his entire lifetime is from the 1870s, when he comes to the school, to about 1933, when he dies of old age. So he doesn't make it to World War II. He becomes a goodly old age, but yeah, there's a limit. And in England, even now, World War One is the big devastating war, not World War Two. World War Two was hold on and get it done. World War One is where all the sons of all the major families died. And so that's the major war. And the war is in it. Sort of German master, there for many years. Many students learned German from this guy. But he's German. And German master basically just disappears off stage at some point. They realize he's not around anymore. Then World War One happens. There's scenes there. And one of the things about World War One is the devastating thing of all the dead people, because they are a boys' school of boys that are upper class or very upper middle class and upper class kids who would have gone on to be dentists and business people and peers. No, I don't think they go as far as peers. They don't have any lords there, but so it's the upper middle class. So all these people, these are the sons that went to war and didn't come back. So the death toll, he gets to, every day at assembly, he gets to call out names and names and names and names of dead students and ex-students that were at the school. And one day he calls out the name of the German master as a casualty, and everybody goes, "Huh? You're talking about a German?" And he says, "No, he's part of the school. He was part of Brookfield's school, so he should be mentioned." But people look funny. Interesting thing about the German teacher, the actor, is that this guy is a real German speaker. He is I looked him up. He was born in 1893, and in 1893 you can't say, oh, he's born in Austria or he's born in Germany, because Germany didn't exist, and Austria was the Austrian, Hungarian, Italian Empire. He was born in Trieste, which is now in Italy. But I think you probably should say that he's Austro-Hungarian Italy. That's where he came from. So I think he probably spoke his languages, because there's a part of Italy that speaks German right now, and they would have also spoken some Italian. So this guy knew his languages. But it's nice to have a guy who actually speaks his languages do the job. So that was good. Yeah, the saddest part of the story is the love story, basically, because the German teacher actually convinces Chipping. His name is Chippings, but everybody called him Chips because it's shorter. So, Chips is persuaded by the German master to go on a walking tour together of Germany, Austria, where it was, and on this tour he ends up alone on a mountain, and on the other side of the mountain, or the mountain peak, there is a young lady, and they get to talking, and he is very reserved, but she's also English, so she knows about reserved. She's a little bit less reserved, but still reserved. It's Greer Garson who plays that. And they get on, and next thing you know, they're married, and he's taking her home to school to be the wife of a schoolmaster. one of the things that she does there, because it's a boys' school, and the headmaster is a guy, and the children are the boys are boys. The headmaster is a guy, and all the masters, all the other teachers are guys, and she brings a female touch to this thing. She tries. I think that's what this movie is trying to portray her role as, because that's not quite how it turns out in the other movies, which I will do in a minute. She brings a female touch to a necessary female touch to a pretty prank-filled. They're very pranky, but then she dies, and the morning of her death, she's very sudden. Nobody but the doctor knows what happened. He goes to class because what else he's going to do? And the kids were pulling a prank because it's April Fool's Day. So April Fool's Day prank, and the kids don't know. So they pull the prank, and then another kid walks in and starts whispering to kids. And oh my God, the scene of embarrassment. It's one for the ages. I'm assuming that one was straight from the book because it's in every single movie. The thing that makes Chips charming, he's a Latin teacher. He's into old stuff, and as such not into progressiveness. But the fact that he had this lady, this Katherine, to show him something else, gives him a better understanding of people. So even though she was there for only a couple of years, it helped him enormously in being a master to these boys. So many boys. So the original book is a sort of in the biopic format. It starts off with the guy being old and then reminiscing and telling stories, and as a collection of stories. And the film does try to do the same thing. So you start with an old guy and you come back to the old guy in the end, and he's on his deathbed, and somebody says, too bad he was never married. And then somebody else says, but he was married. Oh, and I said, too bad he never had any children. And then he says, on his deathbed, but I had children. I had hundreds of them. All boys. And it's drippy of sentimental things. That is one of these things that made this movie in 1939. Robert Donat got an Oscar for being Mr. Chips. They got a bunch of other nominations. So yeah, I think they also got the Oscar for England being at war. So any support is warranted. The performance is good. It's not super. I think they probably had Gone with the Wind going against it, so there's that. I think Gone with the Wind got a lot of Oscar, a lot of nominations, and some of the statuettes as well. But I think they got the Oscar because the war. It's still a good movie. I do have to say, this last time that I rewatched it, and like I said, I was ill, and then you sort of watch a bit, and then you sleep a bit, and then you watch a bit. That doesn't help for the pacing, but I do know that the pacing of this movie is fine. I'm going to say it is overly sentimental now. It's starting to become a little bit old-fashioned. I mean, the entire subject is old-fashioned. It's set in 1870 to 1933 with World War I in it. So it has an inbuilt old-fashionedness, but I think the entire thing is starting to be a little bit old-fashioned. But that's like only recently. Yeah. You're not wasting your 2 hours. Yeah, make sure that you have coffee or tea, and cookies and a warm blankie, and an afternoon that you have nothing better to do, or you're feeling a little bit poorly, and then you can watch it just fine. Because this film is so famous, almost immediately, or once England got over World War II in the terms of film business and stage business, they started talking about doing a musical version. And I've found a date of as early as 1951 they were talking about it on the wiki, and put up some information about that here. But by the time they actually came to a actual musical film, it's 1969, so things don't move very fast. By that time, they have Peter O'Toole to play Chips, and Petula Clark to play Katherine, who is a good singer. Peter O'Toole is not a good singer, but they provided him a bucket and he could carry it, so it's fine. They made sure that stuff is singable. The fact that it's a musical is not an impediment, I think. There aren't that many songs, and some of them are actually performances that are actually performances, because in the earlier version, Katherine is just a girl, daughter of. Here she is actually a cabaret performer. Soubrette. I have to look up what that is, but they call it a soubrette. This thing is actually set much later. It's set in 1924, the start of it, which is fully flapper time. But it was filmed in... the film is from 1969, and let's do the costumes first. The costumes are... In the other one, the costumes were okay. I mean, men's outfits don't change much in the last 200 years. I mean, some lapels and stuff. And when she shows up, they let her show up when he's still young. So it's about the 1870s, 1880s, and she's sort of, maybe a little later. And she wears something vaguely in that direction. Here, because they're putting it in the flapper time, and he actually and Chips actually goes places, lots of flapper dresses, which are good, bar one fatal flaw. Is the flappers, they have a certain line of stuff where you have lines in your thing, and how you have a collar and kind of this handkerchief under skirt type things, and that's all there. Problem is, and it's fatal, is that the waist is about 4 inches too high. It needs to be right at the widest part of your thighs, not anywhere else. If they had done that right, it would have looked perfect, because every other shape was fine. If you ever watch this movie and you're just not interested in the story, just watch all the crowd scenes when they go dancing or when there's a party. Just look at all the extras. They are the looks of them. And there was because it's 1924, there was a lady dressed in a gentleman's outfit in the London parties. And for a completely traditionally flat movie, like a story like this, which is just about traditional stuff, you get a lot of non-traditional stuff in this one. And the more I was looking at this movie, I was going, this is fanfic. This is a fanfic on the other movie. Anything that was missing from the other movie is in this one. And they made a change. Yes, he falls in love with this girl, and he takes her home. She's the soubrette. She's a singer girl, and she starts livening up the school with singing and stuff. But she does not get pregnant. She does not die in childbirth. They get to live together for 20 years very happily. So that's when I said, this is straight up fanfic. This is fanfic. They instead of the trip going to a studio, Austria or Germany, they go to actual Italy and Pompeii. They filmed on location. They filmed location in London. They filmed all over, like 5 locations in Italy. All beautiful stuff. And the school is a real school. This time it's Sherborne School in Dorset. Again with the students. This on the Wikipedia page, these set of students actually stayed a couple of weeks extra in class over the summer to do this movie. So, yeah, it looks very good. But the story is fanfic. And it is what was beautiful about the previous movie, plus all the stuff that's missing in it. The only change that is more surprising is the change of going from 1924 to now the war sequence is World War II. Which in 1969 is only, 25 years over. And World War II and World War I were different in the world, but also in England. And we also get the German teacher, who's not played by a German, and unfortunately, the guy does know his languages, so that was fine. But you would like to see that. Okay. And he lives under a completely different auspice than he did in the World War I version. He just left and then turned up on the dead list. And here he's recalled by a certain bad guy in Germany. And Chips talks to him and says, "Can't you stay?" And he says, "No, I have a mother in Dresden. I cannot stay because bad things will happen." And he does turn up on the dead list, and Mr. Chips announces him at the end, so that's good. I was thinking for a while that Kathy, they were not going to do the death story of Kathy at all, so it would have been nice, but I think maybe they did realize, yes, we're going to do fanfic, but you can't overdo it. We do have to do the story, so. They did do it. She was an entertainer at the beginning, and then in World War II she becomes an entertainer again for the ENSA, which is the Entertainment's National Service Association, which is the UK version of the USO, which was the American entertainment. It's called United Service Organization, and they also did entertainment for the army. So the moment he hears, accidentally, that he is for the duration of the war is going to be the headmaster, acting headmaster, she is just driving off to go to her gig, and of course a bomb comes, and that's it. They have to do the story. They realize they have to do the story. So another thing, they do go after the war, and then go to the end of the story where he's an old man. They don't do a death scene. They did one in the other one. But he goes as an old guy who's already retired and living in the village. He comes to visit the school square where all the boys are playing, and he sort of goes, "Yeah, hundreds of them." So yeah, you get all that. This one This one has also been on BBC quite a bit. I haven't seen it. I've seen it like 3 times on BBC, and just one again just now to make sure that I remembered it properly, because I wasn't paying much attention then. Because it's pretty. What makes it other than it's pretty is that the chemistry between Peter O'Toole and Petula Clark it's not sparkling, but it's very sweet. And Peter O'Toole can play outrageous characters, but he holds it all in and lets Petula Clark do the little bit more glamorous stuff, which I think was a very smart choice. This thing is directed by Herbert Ross, this is actually his very first movie. He did a TV movie before that, but I made a list of all the other things that he has done. Going from this movie, Goodbye Mr. Chips, Funny Lady, The 7% Solution, The Turning Point, the film of these are just the movies that I've seen, that I've picked. I've seen all of these. Nijinsky, which is another dancing movie. Footloose, which I haven't seen yet, but is also a dancing movie. Peanut Gallery, seen it. There's Dancers, which is more dancing. Still Magnolias, and Boys on the Side. So yeah. The music was made by a chap, I'll put the name here because I forgot to write it down, who also did the music to A Christmas Carol, 1971 movie about Scrooge. And I have to say I like the music from that one better. These songs are not very memorable, but they're nice enough to listen to. And Petula Clark's, they make good use of Petula Clark's range, and they don't extend Peter O'Toole's range. I mean, there's not that many in there at all. I mean, you get the first song is like 35 minutes into the show, so don't worry about it being a musical. It's not annoying for people to find that sort of thing annoying. But it's sweet. This is fanfic, just a fanfic homage to the original film, not so much the book. Which brings us to a 2002 TV adaptation, and I believe it's BBC, who at the beginning of the title credits when they come up says with rights from Turner Company, because they obviously had to get the book rights from somebody and it belonged to somebody. I think, and I have not read the book, I have to be very honest here, I have not read the book, but it is very clear that this 2002 TV version is the one where they do the book. It's straight at the book. I've read the synopsis of the book, of what is in there, and it's all in there. And the only thing you can say about it, book versus TV, is that the nuance. I think they have done a nuance shift, because I think they have a story to tell. Because the other two didn't tell the story at all. A salient point of being in a boys' school is things like discipline and how that can be abused. In the 1969 version, there is just no corporal punishment at all. And that's
still legal in the UK for schools to administer corporal punishment until the 1980s.
Yep. In the 1939 version, there's 2 instances of it. When Chips has his very, very first day, it becomes a mess. And the headmaster calls the entire class of boys to come to him later to get caned. They don't show any of that. And then later, when Chips is, when he's acting headmaster in World War I, there is a rebellious boy who keeps making a mess. They don't show it. They just show the scene where he gets called into the headmaster, and the headmaster says, canes him. He doesn't do it, but outside of the image, but you see reflections and stuff like that. Shadows and stuff like that. And the reason why the boy was rebellious is because he felt that the masters at the school should be fighting the war and not sitting on their bum teaching kids. And the Chips canes him first and then says, if we could be going out there, we will be going out there. We're all old, basically, because he's like 80 at this point.
Oh my God. So there will be school teachers that are younger. So having just had lockdowns and stuff behind us, we would be talking about essential workers. This school teachers would be, I don't know if there were during this past few years, but I could imagine that you need school teachers. Just as certain physicians and...
Yes, but Chips was acting head because the head, who was actually younger than him, he was already retired at this point, and he had been called back to be a teacher because the other teachers went to war, and then he had been promoted to acting head because the headmaster had to go to the war ministry. So they had all gone. These were all old fuddies that are no good in a war. And I think this scene is not in the book because it's so contrived. I think it is a call to war. That's why this 1939 movie is such a propaganda movie. It's got these kind of things in it. they did leave something out, because in the 2002 movie they do World War One as well, and then much against Chips' idea, much against his idea of how to be around boys, they actually have boys in uniform, in green uniforms, practicing with bayonets and stuff like that in the school. And even the 1939 version didn't go that far. It's not what the 2002 version is about. World War One happens, but it's quite later in his career. So in the 1939 version, they messed up the timeline because they wanted to have a young man with a young lady. But in the original story, he is 50 when he meets her, and she's 25. Because I think at 25 he comes at that school and he just doesn't go anywhere and doesn't do anything. So, so they meet in the 1890s, and she is a young woman of some pizzazz. She talks about suffrage. She talks about Bernard Shaw as a progressive writer. She and he is completely charmed, and they fall. The way they fall in love in all the versions is the same. It's a whirlwind falling in love, and they're almost instantly married. Because why not? She has nothing to go back for. She's at an age where she was taught by governesses and stuff like that. So when she comes to the boys' school, it's an eye opener for her. She's never been to. As a student, she's never been to a school like that before, or any school at all. And what she does in this movie is very much of all the things that all the headmaster is certain of, and all the teachers are certain of, and the behavior. She's giving a, "Are you sure about that? Maybe not." And it's bad, and that's what this movie is actually about: is the way that these people treat each other. These boys bully, and they do bullying and hazing, and then teachers give them discipline. And Chips hates it. One of the first things he has to do is cane somebody, and he just can't. But it's so normal, and it's so expected, and. It is a 2002 interpretation of the 1933 book, where all these things I'm sure happened, but in this it is condemned. I don't know if it is condemned in the book, but in this it's very much condemned. As we don't want this anymore. You see a lot of school life that is terrible, and as a Dutch person, I look at a boarding school like this. What it is. A boarding school should be, for a Dutch person, says a boarding school you should only have if you have absolutely other choice. If the kids can go to a regular school and have their mommy and the daddy, or auntie or whatever, is much better, because they come here, they're basically all orphans. You orphan them. And what they get back is maybe a housemaster who may be in on the bullying, like one of the housemasters is, and Chips comes in and just stops the hazing in the middle, and then gets the boy who was almost drowned back to the housemaster, and the housemaster says, you didn't wait it out, huh? We'll just have to do it all again. Seriously, it's bad. It's... and these are upper middle class kids that have mums and dads. It's the only thing that in the 1969 version, they have the kids, the entire boys, do a choir, a chorus together on the fact that summer is over and they now have to go to rotten old school. Because no more mommies to give them cakes and stuff like that. And I'm going, oh my god, even in the romanticized fanfic AU, it's there. They don't do any of it. They do very little. I don't think they do any of the bullying in that one. except for the prank, the one that's everyone that does when she dies. She dies here again, same way. They try to have a baby, and it doesn't work out. And then it's April Fool's Day on that morning, and he gets the prank thing, and it's. I don't think this scene ever gets better. It's an integral part, and you have to do it. But the German master, they do the German master storyline as well here. He actually gets bullied about 1910. He gets bullied away out of the school. Then he can't take the bullying anymore. I mean, German is never, but Latin is never everybody's favorite subject either. So they were bullying Chips, they were bullying the German master, and at some point the bullying was because of the animosity, because of upcoming war. He couldn't take it anymore, and he left. They do at the end later, when Chips becomes the acting headmaster, they do the announcement just the same, because you have to do that. It's these salient points. It stars with Victoria Hamilton, who I've seen maybe once in something else. She's very nice. And Martin Clunes as Mr. Chips, Martin Clunes is always really good. He is the undiscovered thing, he's the undiscovered talent that Hollywood never realized. He has what Dorothy L. Sayers called a funny old face. I'll show you here. Peanut Gallery can look it up and see what I mean. It's not a face that's going to do well in Hollywood, but he's a really good actor, and he's done lots and lots for BBC, because he is a good actor. He just has a funny old face. And he is 50-ish when they meet, so he's sort of perfect for the moment. The casting's wonderful. Would have been like to see the German master to be German, and he's now Northern Irish, which is also fine. I have no complaints about the languages. I think the actor knows the languages. So, for the versions for realism, this is the one. I think this one is the most realistic, book accurate thing there is, with the slant of course, against corporal punishment and bullying. That's definitely a hobby horse they're riding. I don't think a 1933 book would be riding that hobby horse, so I don't think that's the thing. But this is the most book accurate thing there is for this story. So we have a book accurate 2002. A fanfic 1969, and a sweet propaganda 1939. And the 1939 film is by far the most famous. The 2002 film doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. I mean, really. Highly recommend the 2002. The 1969 is a bit too flowery. I mean, you're not having a bad time or anything, and do enjoy it to watch costumes and stuff like that. And Peter O'Toole is wonderful, and Petula Clark is wonderful. And the old version is now very old, and that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.